Imagine standing on the African savanna 70,000 years ago. The sun hangs mercilessly overhead, flooding the land with ultraviolet radiation powerful enough to shape the destiny of an entire species. Every human you meet shares one defining feature: dark hair. Not blonde, not red, not even light brown. Black hair was humanity's original design, an evolutionary shield forged over hundreds of thousands of years to protect the scalp beneath the equatorial sun. Yet today, our world is filled with astonishing shades of hair. If black hair worked so perfectly, why did evolution ever change the formula? To understand how this extraordinary diversity appeared, we must first travel beneath the surface of the scalp, into a microscopic world where every strand of hair begins its life. Surprisingly, the hair you can touch is already dead. It is made almost entirely of keratin, a tough structural protein. Once it emerges from the skin, its color is permanently fixed. The decision was made long before the strand ever reached the sunlight. Hidden deep inside each hair follicle are specialized cells called melanocytes, tiny biological factories that inject pigment into the growing hair shaft. Despite the incredible range of human hair colors, nature relies on only two primary pigments. The first, melanin, produces shades of black and brown. The greater its concentration, the darker the hair becomes. The second, melanin, creates warm tones of gold, copper, orange, and red. Every natural hair color on Earth, from jet black to platinum blonde, is simply a unique balance between these two pigments, combined with how densely they are packed inside each strand. But this elegant system raises an even greater mystery. If evolution already possessed such an efficient pigment factory, what persuaded it to reduce production in some populations? Why would natural selection favor hair that reflected more sunlight instead of absorbing it? The answer lies in one of humanity's greatest journeys: the migration out of Africa into an entirely different world. Around 60 to 70,000 years ago, small groups of modern humans left Africa and gradually spread across Europe, Asia, and beyond. In the colder northern latitudes, the environment that had once rewarded dark pigmentation began to change. Sunlight became weaker, winters grew longer, and the evolutionary pressures that had shaped humanity for millennia started to shift. In northern Europe, scientists traced natural blonde hair to an astonishingly subtle genetic change. It was not a dramatic mutation that switched pigment production on or off. Instead, a tiny alteration near the gene known as KITLG slightly reduced the amount of melanin delivered to developing hair follicles. The effect was remarkably precise. Hair became lighter, while skin and eye color were affected far less than researchers once expected. But here is where the story becomes truly remarkable. Travel nearly halfway around the world to the Solomon Islands in Melanesia, and you will encounter people with deep brown skin and naturally brilliant blonde hair. For generations, outsiders assumed this unusual appearance resulted from European ancestry. DNA analysis proved otherwise. Their blonde hair comes from an entirely different mutation, this time involving the TERP1 gene, a genetic variant absent in Europeans. Two isolated populations, two separate mutations, the same striking appearance. Evolution had arrived at the same destination by following two completely different genetic roads, demonstrating one of biology's most fascinating phenomena: convergent evolution. Now, let me ask you something. If you could redesign the human body for survival, would you ever choose a trait that makes skin burn faster under the sun? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. Of course not. Yet evolution did exactly that. Natural red hair, found in only about 1 to 2% of the world's population, is linked to variations in a gene called MC1R. Think of this gene as a biological switch. Under normal conditions, it encourages the production of dark melanin. But certain mutations weaken that signal, shifting pigment production toward reddish pheomelanin instead. The result is unmistakable: fiery red hair, porcelain skin, freckles, and an increased sensitivity to ultraviolet radiation. That seems like a terrible evolutionary bargain, unless you change the environment. Imagine living through a northern European winter thousands of years ago. Weeks could pass beneath thick clouds, with only a fraction of the sunlight available in equatorial Africa. In these conditions, producing enough vitamin D became a matter of survival. Individuals with lighter skin, and often lighter hair, allowed scarce ultraviolet rays to penetrate more efficiently, helping their bodies build stronger bones, healthier immune systems, and increasing the likelihood of successful reproduction. But this adaptation came at a price. More sunlight meant more vitamin D. Yet too much ultraviolet radiation destroys folate, a vitamin essential for healthy pregnancies and fetal development. Evolution was never searching for perfection. It was negotiating a delicate compromise between two equally vital needs. And that compromise would reshape the appearance of millions of future humans. So here's another question for you. If survival alone explains lighter hair, why didn't every northern population evolve the same incredible palette of blonde, red, and auburn? The answer may have had less to do with nature, and far more to do with love. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. If weak sunlight alone created blonde and red hair, then we should expect the same explosion of hair colors across every northern population on Earth. Yet East Asians, who also lived for thousands of years under high latitudes, remained overwhelmingly dark-haired. So what made Europe different? Before I continue, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe human appearance is shaped only by survival? Or could attraction also influence evolution? Let me know in the comments before we reveal one of anthropology's most controversial ideas. Anthropologist Peter Frost proposed that Europe's remarkable diversity of hair and eye colors may have been driven by sexual selection rather than climate alone. During the last ice age, much of northern Europe was a frozen grassland where survival depended heavily on hunting massive herds of reindeer and mammoths. These dangerous expeditions claimed the lives of many young men, creating an unusual imbalance between the sexes. Imagine a society where women significantly outnumbered men. Competition for mates would have become far more intense than in most human populations. Under these conditions, any rare physical feature capable of attracting attention, a brilliant blonde hairstyle, vivid red hair, or striking blue eyes, could provide a reproductive advantage simply because it was different. This idea remains a hypothesis rather than an established fact. Yet, if it is correct, some of the world's rarest hair colors may not have evolved because they improved survival, but because they captured someone's attention. Ancient DNA has revealed another surprise. Early Europeans did not instantly become fair-skinned and blonde after leaving Africa. Many hunter-gatherers living just 7,000 to 8,000 years ago still had dark skin, even though some already carried blue eyes. The widespread rise of lighter skin and hair happened much later, accelerated by the arrival of Neolithic farmers from Anatolia and changing diets that increased the need for vitamin D. In other words, the colors we see today were not created in a single moment. They emerged slowly, generation after generation, through migration, intermarriage, and natural selection. The next time you look in the mirror, remember that your hair is more than a personal feature. It is a living record of humanity's journey, written by ancient migrations, shifting climates, random mutations, and millions of years of evolution. Every strand tells a story that began long before civilization itself. And perhaps that is the most remarkable discovery of all. What seems like a simple difference in appearance is actually one of evolution's greatest masterpieces. A reminder that the history of our species is still woven into every human being alive today.